Hi, I wanted to show you the structure of my learning management system, or a class that I taught last year. So it's showing basically the organization of the class. It shows the NATEF task sheets, the task correlation forms, and the diagnostic data form, which are all forms that are used that open up to different PDF files that they can use to perform assignments. The assignments themselves are all in the left column block. You can see the organization of announcements, syllabus assignments, the workboard discussion form, and then their tools are organized in the left column block. So if I go back to assignments, it shows the composite vehicle for test preparation, and for my classes I like to use the L1 composite vehicle or the Bureau of Automotive Repair, California Department of the Bureau of Automotive Repair composite vehicle, so that they can actually begin learning and working on the national standard or the California standard, either of those two, for their tests. And then each week has the learning objectives and then the learning activities before the folder is open. So we can look at the student learning objectives with the department objectives and then sub-learning objectives, and then if I open up one of the folders, it'll have other PowerPoints as PDF files. This one is the beginning week, so there's not a whole lot, but there's the Cuyamaca College safety procedures, the Cuyamaca College safety test, which is showing it as closed, some SB2 instructions and YouTube video instructions for the SB2, the SB2 link, some NATEF lab sheets that are due for this week, and a video called Unsafe Shop Practices. Just kind of give you an idea of how things are organized in Blackboard. So if I go down, it shows all of the weeks having kind of the same structure. I try to keep the organization similar from week to week, so that once you start learning the organization, it becomes easier to manage. And then I wanted to show you, this is we're talking about performance testing. So we call this performance testing because it's laboratory testing. So I have the objective of the laboratory testing, which is more of a final objective, and that is, it's in red. It says to independently demonstrate the ability to perform computer system and fuel system servicing using related diagnostic equipment, which is the main department learning objective. And then it has assignments still, read chapter 33 about scan tools and image performance diagnosis. And then it has some NATEF tasks that relate to the performance test. And then it has the assessments are, for this week, is going to be performance testing. So then I have the schedule that opens up. It's on the before the folder is even opened. So you don't have to open the folder, that shows each student's name and the time when they're supposed to come in for their performance test, so they can have an actual one-on-one oral exam with me. And I have extra spaces allotted for those students who either perform poorly on the oral exam, so they need to try to have a second chance to make it up, or they missed their assigned time. And then finally, we have our another type of assessment would be the final exam, is another performance assessment, but an objective assessment, where we can test the students to find out how well they're doing. So in this folder in week 17, it shows that I gave them a practice test for them to practice, which is has no consequences. It's a formative test. It's similar to the final exam, but it doesn't repeat questions, but it has the ideas, the concepts demonstrated in the practice test. So if they do well in their practice test and start understanding the concepts, they'll do better on the final exam. So the final exam is not easy because it's really, I'm trying to emulate the L1 testing, which an advanced student would need to know if they're practicing in the field. So they kind of have a way of measuring themselves against that national standard. And then, of course, I'm showing how can I improve this class. So this is going to open up, and I'm working on this now because this is more of an open-ended question. I'm actually including now multiple choice questions and surveying of how I'm doing in the class, but I'm starting to do that now. And then the final exam opens, and in the final exam, rather than just opening to something simple, it tends to be a lot more performance oriented. So it's not as boring or for example, this is showing an actual wiring diagram from the L1 composite vehicle, and it's asking questions about the whoa, where did it go? It's asking questions about this. To try to get there, it's saying what type of waveform will be produced between pins 21 and 22? And so this is an actual screenshot of the L1 composite vehicle, which is a national standard. So between 21 and 22, it's going to perform some type of a waveform. And then the answers are an AC sine wave varying between 2 and 20 volts, a Hall effect signal varying in frequency, ohms of 1.2 mega ohms, or 5 volts of reference voltage. So it's asking questions that are captured with Jing and then put into a test which has, I think, much better test questions that I'm going for. Something that's a little bit more realistic, what they need to know to actually work on cars. There's another one where it's actually showing, a waveform and then a component, which we've talked about, and then, what kind of a signal should be formed. This is the signal that we're reading. Is that correct for that type of a device? And it's doing things that I'm trying to do things that would apply more to realistic needs of what a student needs to demonstrate in the field if they're at a higher level. And here's another part where this is taken straight from the L1 composite vehicle, where I'm asking about, that I can ask questions about temperature based on, this graph. And then here's some scan tool data from a scan tool, and I can say, based on this scan tool information, ask questions to interpret. These are all still multiple choice questions, but it's the presentation of the multiple choice question that makes it more performance. I mean, even going as far as having a captioned video and then asking about what that means. So what I do is I combine regular multiple choice questions and then ask these other questions that are used emphasizing the national standard. Here's one where this is like showing a Jing, again, a capture of a meter, and then it's going back to that crankshaft position sensor again because it's so important, and it's saying, well, based on this value, what's the condition? Is it open? Is it test correctly? Should I switch the DMM to a different trigger level or something, or what's going on? So anyway, just a real quick, my internalization of At1 standards has allowed me to use tools to bring more tools into the classroom, and then to present the tools that we have and we use in the shop visually to the students in the classroom. So I'm rewriting a lot of things that I had presented before, where I would just use something from Pearson, which is like the canned test questions from Pearson, which really are a publisher, are not that good. I mean, they have their good points and bad points, but it's not really what we're using necessarily in the field. I mean, it's good content, but the presentation of the content is pretty basic, and I think that we can take this, using these tools, we can take performance testing to the next level and stay organized so the students appreciate and understand where they're going and how they're going to get there.